It's 1960s Warsaw, and legend has it that during this period a number of child kidnappings occurred. There are various different outlooks on the reasons as to why this took place. Many believed that the children were taken for their blood to be used as a cure for leukemia. Others believed it was high-ranking Soviets that were taking them for sexual gratification. Another version of this legend tells us that vampires, mysterious priests, Satanists, body vendors, and even Satan himself drove the black Volga car. This story starts in 1965 at the height of the kidnappings. Walking down the main street of the old town was a group of young teenage girls, laughing and giggling as they walked. It was only 1:30 in the afternoon, and the sun was high, and people were in good spirits. As they approached a local street cafe, one of the girls, Marta, noticed a strange-looking vehicle parked across the street. The engine was running, and there were two large gentlemen sat smoking and watching them as they entered the cafe. As they left the cafe, Marta separated from the group and made her way along the main street and turning left into Stone Stair Street. She had an unnerving feeling that she was being followed. Glancing over her shoulder, she saw nothing. That was until it was too late. Seconds later, there was a screech of tires, and the mysterious black vehicle was by her side. Before she knew what was happening, she was forced into the rear of the vehicle and driven away, all the time her face forced down into the rear seat. The next 20 minutes felt like a lifetime, all sorts of things running through her head. Where were they taking her? What did they want? And at the forefront of her mind was, what are they going to do to me? When the car finally drew to a standstill, she was ushered out of the back seat into what seemed to be a large self-storage facility. It was icy cold, and the hairs on the back of her neck began to stand on end. As she was pushed into an office to the left of the roller shutter door where the black car was parked, it was now recognizable as a 1963 Volga, a popular family car of the period. On entering the office, she was faced by a stern-looking woman sat behind a cheap, budget office desk. She had spectacles perched on the end of her long, thin nose and wore a beige tweed suit. She stood and walked around the young woman, inspecting every inch of her as she went. "Perfect specimen, gentlemen," she said to the two rather large men stood by the door. "Strip!" she shouted at Marta. Too shocked and scared to refuse, Marta began to obey the vicious-tongued female. "Take her to the cleansing room," she said, and with that she was escorted from the office and into the main body of the facility, sectioned off by white surgical curtains. There was nothing sterile about this place, she thought. Fear now began to replace the uncertainty she felt not 10 minutes ago. The two men threw her into a large reclining seat and strapped her in, gagged her and left. Marta began to drift off into her own little world where she would be safe. It was then that a tall, grey-haired man dressed in a white doctor's coat arrived, pushing a stainless steel trolley. He smiled at her as he lifted the syringe off the trolley and proceeded to insert it into her arm, drawing a vial of blood from her and placing it on the trolley. He disappeared into the distance. The next thing she knew, a pretty blonde nurse was helping her from the chair and walking her across to the next cubicle, where she was given a green hospital gown and asked to wait. Around 2 hours later, the cubicle was entered by the nurse, and this time she was accompanied by 2 orderlies and taken to the place they called the farm. As she entered the vast open space, she froze for a second, unsure it was awe or fear. She made her way to a desk where a small, bespectacled old man was typing on a computer. "Name?" he said, without removing his gaze from the screen. "Section 12, row 6, berth 42, he said to the orderlies, and with that she was silently hurried towards the destination they were given. Once they arrived, Marta was given a sedative and placed on a small metal framework and slid back into the massive crane like a storage unit. She was fed through tubes and kept under constant sedation. Tubes from her wrists and ankles transported blood from her to clear sterile bags that hung from drip holders. Now, although she was totally unaware of what she was being subjected to, there was 2,000 other units, as they were called, in the same storage facility, being farmed for their clean blood in order to create the leukemia cure that everyone so desperately craved. Months passed, and more units were inducted into the place. More and more blood was harvested, and mysteriously more and more disappeared. Many believed the vampires attacked the blood trucks, but no one can truly be sure. Several months later, the men in the black Volga were no longer seen on the streets of Warsaw. The body farms, as they became known, ceased to exist, and the bodies were found stretched across the city for some time after. Time will only tell if such atrocities will arise again. Maybe next time we will see them coming. It's in the dustiest books that you may find the best stories.